Alright guys, good evening. So in today's video I want to show us how to do pleats. So right here I have my facing. The measurement I have there is 16 to 17 inches width. Now the length from the neck depth I have it to be at 21 and a half. Now this length is solely your choice. Then from the neck you mark 7 inches, you iron that point. That point is where the pleats will start, right? Bear in mind that the number of pleats will determine how long your facing will be. So you start from there, fold this way and so, making sure that you are using the machine footer as your gauge in sewing. The lines must be straight, right? You sew from there all through down. That's for the first pleat. Then you cut your threads, and then this for the first pleat. You then fold again. Now this second folding, the guideline will be the footer of your machine resting by the side of the old line you have sewn, and then the folded edge coming out a bit at your machine foot. So you take your time to arrange. Alternatively, you can use one finger to check the size, right? Make sure that the thread you sewed initially is resting at the side of the footer, while the edge is resting at the end or coming out a bit at the machine foot as well. I think I have a previous video on this. You can still check it out on the channel for more clarification, right? Then you sew as shown. Make sure as you're sewing you are controlling the size to be the same from beginning to the end. When you get to this stage, this is the second pleat. Then you cut your threads as shown. Then you also pick it up another one, and then you make sure that the second one is covering the lines of the first one you have sewn. It must cover the threading. You pick the third one and sew. So this is what you will do repeatedly to the number of pleats or measurements you have left at the material you cut out at the facing. Then you make sure you use your finger to make sure the size are equal. Please, one should not be bigger than the other one. So you sew all through. After sewing, you are arranging your material. This will give you a perfect result when you finish sewing at this with this method. You make sure that the end of the threading is touching your machine foot, while the folded edge is also coming out a bit at the machine foot for those of us using industrial machines. So this is the third one. So I will take my time to repeat them, and then I will show you the results as we progress. So let me do I see how it's coming out right. So it's lapping properly. So now I have finished the whole pleat. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 pleats. 14 pleats, right? Now this one is too small, so I will bend it under that way, and then the last pleat will serve me at the folding of the facing. So the next thing remaining now is to iron. So when you're going to iron, you make sure you see how it's covering, right? So this is how it will come out. So right here I have ironed, and then this is how it came out. Iron from back. Make sure you iron from back, and then you now fold the edge to give you the finishing measurement you want. So right here I have it to be ending at point 10.5 from the neck depth. Then your 6 inches is still covered. Now the width is 10.5. Now the width is dependent on your customer's chest measurement, Now the pleat covered 4 inches, right? Then as you can see, you now cut off the under to make sure it's giving you a perfect result, so that the width will not be too bold or too big when you are folding. So I have it to come out that way. So the next thing you will do now is to start attaching this to the facing. Then you placing the right side of the facing to the wrong side of the fabric. Then you make a slit opening. I believe most of us must have known this by now. Then make sure that the center of the facing is positioned at the center of the front piece. Then you sew from there 6 inches down. Hence the reason we did our pleat from 7, so that the pleat will not enter at the slit opening, right? So you move, make sure it's 6 inches, right? So it's 6 inches I have there. Then you sew as shown, and then you come up again, and then you make it to cover up that way. So now, once you have finished making to that point, you cut out the threads as shown as well, and then you cut your threads, and then you slit at the center of the point you have sewn. Bear in mind, this sewing is not up to half an inch, it's 1/4 inch. Then you slit from there, from the center. You slit from there, slit from here, sorry for that. So you slit from here, then slit. When you get to the end, you give it a little V. That little V helps you to have a nice turnout, so it won't be dragging the front piece much. Then you fling it over to come out to the front panel. That's the right side now, coming out to the right side of the fabric, right, of the front panel. So once you have done it this way, you can iron at this point, but if you can still handle the material this way, you make sure that the at edge is properly balanced. You hold it together that way, and then you top stitch tip to tip. The reason of doing this is to make sure that the front piece and the facing comes out to be a one-piece fabric, to make you have an easy control while you are sewing or piping. You top stitch all through to the shoulder that way, and make sure while you're doing this, you arrange the material underneath to make sure the balance or is balanced properly before you sew. You sew from there as well, and make sure it's deep enough. And then coming to the side, this is where you will take time to balance everything, right? Make sure there's no air. Make sure that the facing and the material are corresponding. Then you sew from the tip. Then you arrange properly. Now, coming down to the place you did your pleating, you're not meant to sew on top of the pleat, because it will not be easy for your machine to sew. So then what then do we do? I will show you how we're gonna go about it. Sew this way, make sure everything is corresponding, and then hold that place very well, stretch it out a bit so that the pleats will be properly visible. Then stop at the end of the first pleat. Please don't sew on top of the pleats, don't sew there. So cut your threads there, cut your threads, then you jump the pleats. Start from the end of the last pleat, make sure it's properly balanced, jump the pleats, arrange it very well, then start from the last pleat, the one that served for the folding, the last pleat. Start from there, stitch, So when you get to this stage, you make sure as well you are stitching at the tip, and then make sure that the center of the facing is corresponding with the center of the fabric, as the iron points are corresponding in this case now. Then stretch out the pleats to make sure they are properly balanced, and then you sew. Fold the other end properly, right, and then you tuck it out that way, and then you sew. Take your time to arrange your fabric. That's the only way out. Control your fabric. Don't allow the fabric to control you. You sew, and then when you get to the tip of this one as well, you're not meant to run across the pleats. You're also going to end your sewing at the end of the last pleat at this part. So you're also going to sew and end at the ending of the last pleat. When you get to that stage, you pause. Please don't sew on top of the pleats. It's very, very important. Very, very important. Cut your threads as shown, and then jump the whole pleat. Still start from the beginning of the tip of the first pleat as well. So start from there, making sure that you have arranged the piece of the fabric with the facing, right? They must be together that way. You arrange properly, right, as shown. Then you start there to stitch. Don't worry, I will show you how to handle the pleats area so that you will not have issues or rough work. That's the secret to most nice outfits you see there. There are tricks to things, and if you don't get the tricks, you will not really like the outcome, even though you know how to sew. So you can still top stitch the shoulder if you want. You can still leave it that way, but let me top stitch the shoulder. You sew all through that point, and then you also can leave the neck area since the shoulder is being held. It's not necessary at this point. Cut your threads. So now let's see how to hold the pleat points. Then you bring out, you can run a double threading here if you want. It serves you as a decorative stitch. That's what you call a decorative stitch. The re-stitch is the first one we have sewn. The second one is to enhance your second or your outfit, so to give you a nice result. That if you want to sew it, you can ignore this if you don't like it, or if you don't deem it fit, right? But I would recommend or suggest you do it because it adds beauty to your clothes. Then you sew, make sure your lines are straight. The trick I'm using, I'm lapping the first line I have sewn at the edge of the footer while I thread the second one. Automatically the second line becomes straight when you must have used the first threading as your guideline to sew the second one. Then you also repeat the same thing at this side as well. You make sure you use the first stitch as a guide while making the second stitch, right? That's the trick to some straight lines. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and on your notification bell, because it's going to be a massive video upload on this channel. Also follow me on Instagram at Mr_redefined as we learn together. Then let's see how to close the pleat positions. You are going to open up the center of that pleat, open one of the pleats, open it up that way, then stitch under or inside the pleats all through. You can do it 2 times or 3 times as the case may be. The reason of doing this is to enable you hide your stitches inside so that it will not come out visible to your on your outfit. So you just have to stitch inside the pleats, open them up one after the other. You can just randomly do 3 lines at targeted positions so that the pleat area will be properly held or balanced as well on your customer's outfit. So you can do it second 2-3 times or 4 as the case may be. Bear in mind that the number of pleats you want to have will be the number of inches you add apart from your 6 inches slit opening from the neck. So if you want to have a 10-inch a 10 pieces or a 10 pleats formations, you add 10 to it so that you have enough material to do that, right? So as you can see, I have sewn at that point, so I think I'm okay with this. So let's see the result. So you cut your threads very well. Around my thread 2 points on the inside the pleats. It's to help me conceal underneath the pleats, right? So you cut your threads. Your thread cutting helps you to have a neat finishing inside. So let's see how it comes out. So you have seen how this can be achieved, right? So this is how it is. So you iron now. While ironing, you see how it has held that together. So you can decide to do yours 3 or 4 as the case may be, right? So that's just the essence of this video, to show you how some of these things are done or achieved. So you go and iron. While ironing, please make sure you place a fabric of the same fabric you are making on top of the pleat area. Iron with your steam iron, and then that's just it. Now let's form the flap. Now this flap, the measurement is 3 inches in cutting, and then you fold 1/2 inch as shown. Then at this point, you now bring up your underneath flap. They have 3 pieces of flap of this. The measurement of that one under is 1 inch or 1.5 as the case may be. Then you can decide to sew straight up, or you can decide to top stitch the tip first before you attach this to the main fabric. Then bear in mind that at this point this is called a decorative stitch. So you just have to top stitch the tip of the 3 inches flap you cut out, and then the part you folded 1/2 inch is the part I'm sewing at the tip, right? Take your time, make sure your threadings are straight enough, then thread it as shown, and then make sure everything is coming out properly and nicely. You top stitch the tip all through. From that point, the both of the flaps, you top stitch them at the tip. Then before you now bring up the underneath flap to form the total flap outrightly. So now guys, let's bring the underneath flap and start forming the flap. So you place it this way, and then you lap the flap 1/2 inch, or rather use the first threading you have made to sew from there. You sew from there all through to the down parts of the flap. You make sure that your lines are straight enough, because this adds to your total finishing and packaging. Like I said, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mr_redefined. That's for my IG handle rather. And then subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mr. Redefined Clothing, and then have everything on your notification bell, so that when I post a video, you will be notified that new video has been uploaded. Then lap the other second flap to the end of this. Then at this point, if you're using another color underneath, you can now decide to push it out a bit to reveal the color under. But since I'm using the same fabric, the same color, there will be no need to open up the flap. So I'm just going to lap it as best position as I can to make sure everything is properly arranged. Then you sew all through to that point. So you take your time to arrange all this, right? Don't be in a haste while you are sewing anything, right? Take your time to go through it. Cut your threads as well. Then you now go and fold this flap to your desired width, right? Fold the flap to your desired width. So however you want to do it, you now fold. So now I have folded. Now I have weaved. Then I've also used hemming gum to hold underneath the flap. Then I now bring the two pieces of the cloth together, and then I'll start fixing. Please make sure the part you weaved is facing towards your direction, or is facing towards the left hand side of the outfit. Don't allow the weave part to face the right hand side, so that it will not come out from the under when you put your pressing buttons. Then you make sure you sew tip to tip. Then before you sew, you make sure you tuck in any excesses of the flap coming out. You use your scissors to tuck them in, or your fingers. So you can use your scissors to push them in to make sure it's properly arranged. Then you place it that way, and then you sew through down from the beginning. Make sure your threadings are straight enough, and make sure you tuck in any excesses coming out. So now you take your time to sew this. So tuck in the excesses as you progress. Don't allow any to come out. Very important. So you sew gradually. As you can see how I'm sewing gradually, right? Tuck them in as you progress. So when you have taken your time to do all these things, you will be so glad that you can achieve this and more. And then this is how it's been done. Nothing hard. Then the regular sewing takes effect. You continue your regular sewing, and then you don't have anything again to worry about, right? So make sure that the flap is centralized at the center fold of the front panel, and then you go gradually as well, tucking in the excesses under. At this point, you can now decide to have a V fold at the down part of the flap, or you might just leave it to be in a block form. However be the case, is still okay. And don't forget, you are watching Mr. Redefined. I am the CEO of Mr. Redefined Clothing Africa, known as Fashion Priest. Please kindly follow me on Instagram at Mr. underscore Redefined. And then don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mr. Redefined Clothing on your notification bell. Subscription is absolutely free. There is no fees attached to it. The reason for you to subscribe is for you to be aware when I upload new videos so that you will not be missing anything, right? Just help me and click on the red button that shows subscribe, and also share the video to your friends, and as well invite people to subscribe as well so that all of us can grow. At this point, I have 18.2k subscribers. I want to see if we can grow to 20k before the year 2021 runs out. By next year, 2022, we are going to have a massive online training on YouTube platform and Telegram where videos will be uploaded, and then I will get a Telegram group that people will submit their works, ask questions. There will be certification at the end of each set. Then the training is free, but the certification will come with a price of 10,000 naira, and then a whole lot of things will be learned. Before the certification, you will be given an assignment to do. If you do yours and come out nicely, then henceforth you will get your certification. So as you're sewing, you now measure out the point of your placket stop, which can be 6 inches for all grown-ups. For all kids, 5 inches. You might decide to make yours 6.5 so that you have enough room for your customer or your client to open up and then bring out his head while trying to put on the clothes. So guys, this is the end result of our pleating style senator, and then the sewing processes, how it was achieved. I believe this will guide us